Hello, my name's Lesley Atherton and this is my short story called Peace and Love and Life on the Dole. Peace and love and life on the Dole, a sausage roll and rock, not roll. One time, 20 years ago almost to the day, he'd walked towards the ballroom to find Valerie standing at the entrance, her eyes flooded with tears. The salt water fell in swollen droplets onto her satin bodice. "It'll be all right," he'd said. "Yes, it will, one day." He'd held her hand as they both stared into the parquet effect lino flooring. Not yet, but one day. His cotton handkerchief had been employed in blotting her tears, and it blotted away a little of the misery, the loss of their baby, the loss of their home, the loss of their hope. All their losses had knocked some of the stuffing out of them, but not all. That time came a little later. How does a soul recover from so many losses and so many disappointments? Terry was testament and proof that souls frequently do not. It was 3:30 on a Monday afternoon, and he knew that most men his age were at work or were preparing for their late shifts. But Terry was at the bright and airy new Job Seekers Centre with its banana yellow curving walls. Architecturally unusual, it was accentuated with bright green and white plastic IKEA furniture, some pieces fitted to the floor, others loose. Terry wondered how long it would take before these chairs were used as weapons, and then unwondered it. The job centre had been open for 9 days. It had probably happened already. He sat back on his chair and examined the ceiling circles. They reminded him of cross screw heads. He looked away and towards his fellow job seekers. The guy over there, with orange hair sticking out of his hat, was rapping silently to himself. The woman beside him seemed to be a single mum. Her 2 children were excited to be in what to them presumably looked like a huge playground. Such brightness and with so many colours. But the young mum's attitude was rough and tough, and the kids' enthusiasm soon abated. Terry looked at the stairwell and noted how many people went the wrong direction up the walkway. Giddy young kids jumped up and down steps while their parents, attempting to appear industrious and professionals in waiting, wore suits over their trainers and preciously conveyed their carrier bags of CVs. Outside, a few older kids were messing with radio-controlled cars, and as Terry was watching them through the squeaky clean plate glass, a huge woman in gold gladiator sandals plonked herself next to him. "Waste of money," she stated. Terry smiled awkwardly. The kids next to Terry began talking about the latest Pirates of the Caribbean film and showed their mum a poster they'd made at school. Terry glanced over and his eye was drawn to all the spelling mistakes. Mum looked up from her phone and briefly nodded at the poster. Terry wondered why there were so many kids in the building. There were kids of all kinds. Nervous kids, happy kids, posh kids, rough kids, noisy kids, scared kids, and kids going on about bottles of rum. They were the Pirates fans, clearly. The loudspeaker system kicked into action, though the announcement was mumbled and pointless. At a neighbouring desk, Terry heard, "Be positive, be clear, be precise." This was the instruction from a Dole officer to a young lad claiming benefits for the first time. The lad scratched his ear and asked for an ashtray, which was refused. "Sit back and sit sensibly, please," the mum next to Terry demanded. Her children ignored her, but the young lad, already being scrutinised by the clerical officer, straightened his back and returned his unlit cigarette to the packet. Terry thought of another straight back, his wife's, at the time when she'd danced. Oh, the body she'd had, and with such lithe elegance. He thought of autumn leaves and of newly forming conkers, green and crispy, which would now fall onto her headstone. And he thought of her letter. He knew each word as if it had been engraved onto his heart. "I haven't mentioned this to you before today, but, my darling, I need to tell you how I feel. Lives collapse and grow, lives on standby or lives on hold, lives with starts and ends and middles of great substance. Mine has reached the end. Please don't allow yours to do the same, not yet." Terry left the building some time later, not having been seen, and not even remembering why he'd been called in. He walked towards the park, though it wasn't a shortcut home. He would need to get a bus back, but he liked coming here. He took clear and simple pleasure in sitting on a bench overlooking that well-used yet fairly quiet field. He counted 8 lots of football goalposts. At one point they'd had rugby posts there too, but they, like so many of the park's enhancements, had gone by the wayside. Still, at least the grass was green and the sky blue. At least the children on their way home from school had somewhere to play, even if their screams were occasionally drowned out by the humming drone of the police security helicopter. Terry wondered whether he should take a taxi home. He sometimes did when his knees were bad, but preferred the bus. He liked how much more of human life you saw on public transport. Valerie had liked buses too. Terry shook that thought away. It was pointless thinking of her. At any rate, he was due at the doctor's shortly, so couldn't spend long outside, mooning and meandering over what used to be. "How long's it been since you stopped smoking?" the practice nurse had once asked him. "I stopped at age 11, he had said. That'd shut her up. As he walked to the bus stop, Terry remembered life as it had been when his daughter was young and when his wife was still around. There had been no rain for 5 weeks, and other people were getting concerned, though young Terry hadn't been. It was quietly raining in his heart, simultaneous rain and sun. His lovely daughter, almost 10 at that time, had given him strength when he'd needed it. But her existence tied Terry irrevocably to Valerie. There had been no rain, but God, how it poured. Valerie was the sun breaking through Terry's dark clouds. He remembered how Amber had proudly told both Mum and Dad that her room was tidy and that she had made her bed and even found the Mr. Sheen to dutifully polish her shelves. She'd put all her dolls in a bag for the charity shop and had lugged it with great determination to the front door. Terry had been a little sad that Amber's dolls were gone and that a small armful of cuddly toys were all that was left of the little girl she had been. He couldn't tell her how proud he was, though. He couldn't tell Valerie either. Those 5 rain-free weeks. Amber's life had been 10 years of rain, snow, sun and smiles, and sadness, tantrums and tears. But Amber was gone, Valerie was gone, and Terry was lost in memories of peace and love and in the reality of his life on the Dole.